Another episode here in your 20s podcast. We're here in Miami. Like I said, we moved here to make dreams happen. Road to #1 being the best interview of all time. What? Enough about me, but we're going to talk about my boy right now, Tabare. But am I pronouncing the name correctly?
Yeah, you are.
Tabare
Sotomayor.
Bro, what is that name from? Like, what's your background a little bit
So
first?
I was born in Peru, right? But my name, funny story, my dad and my mom were debating. They were like, dude, what do we name this kid? It's a second child. And they opened up a book and they were like, okay, let's just open up the book and whatever the finger lands on, that's going to be the name. So I was chosen by God, I like to say.
Dude, there's always like a background story of like someone's name. And it's crazy because you said Peru, right? Peru. Dude, you were born there, right?
I was born there, yeah, till I was like 10 years old.
And then you came to the U.S.?
Yeah.
How was that transition like coming over here?
Dude, it was crazy because I remember when I first came to the U.S., right? The same reason immigrants come here is, dude, better opportunity, more money, security, right? The part that I was born in Peru was called Chorrillos, which is a very, it's not the most pleasant area in the world. So I remember when we first moved down here, bro, we came here illegally, right? So we kind of just came here on a visa, but we extended our stay. And I remember what ended up happening, bro, was I was completely shocked at USA. Right, because you see it in movies, like, oh, it's green, the sky is blue. In Peru, it's called the city of gray because the sky is just gray. Right, so when I came here, I was like, dude, I feel like I'm in Disneyland. I feel like I'm watching a Disney movie.
Dude, but I mean, like, coming over to the U.S. From Peru, like, what's your expectation? Like, what is the American dream over there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I like to say this. If you live in South America, your #1 goal should be to get out of South America and go to either USA, Dubai, someplace that has money, right? Because if you're surrounded with people that make no money, eventually, right, just like the saying, right, if you're surrounded with 5 broke people, you're going to be the 6th. Same thing when it comes to these countries like Colombia, Venezuela, Peru. It's like, bro, there's not a lot of money in those places unless you were born into a family of wealth, right? I've never met a self-made millionaire that came from Peru and stayed in Peru.
Wow.
Never in my life.
So there's corruption everywhere. So, I mean, you were just 10 years old. Like, I'm assuming your parents took that initiative decision to come over here.
Yeah.
So at 10 years old, what did you see? Like, what was your first thing a culture shock for you at 10?
Yeah, well, the first thing was learning the language, right? I was speaking Spanish, and then I had to relearn English and be like, damn. I remember, dude, this vivid image. I was in probably 4th grade, 5th grade, around there, and I was in elementary school. I remember sitting down, and I was like, damn, this is so scary, bro. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do here. I have no friends. My brother's 3 years older than I am, so he was in middle school. I was in elementary. And I remember, bro, sitting there being lost, and I'm like, dude, I want more in life, right? I want to do more. I was very passionate when I was little. I was like, I knew I always wanted to make money. I always wanted to build something for myself, but I just didn't know how, right? My mom, she grew up, she was basically cleaning houses. My dad, they had a company, it's called Travesuras, which is basically my dad would dress up as a clown, right? And my mom would paint faces just so we can go ahead and survive when we first moved down to this country.
Wow. So when you were coming, so I'm assuming you went to a public school, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So did you feel insecure yourself knowing that, one, you didn't know the language, second, you saw right away the material people? Where did you go first? What part of the United States?
So first I went to Illinois, and it wasn't the nicest area in Illinois. It was in, I think it was Springfield, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, bro, you were down south. Yeah.
Yeah, it was there, and I went there, and then we moved from Illinois to Florida to Pennsylvania. My dad actually got in a car accident in Pennsylvania. And it's a funny story because my dad, he was trying to stay up, doing his resume, and because of that, he didn't sleep, and he was trying to provide for my family, my mom, my brother, and he stayed up all night filling out his resume. He got in the car, he fell asleep in the wheel, got in a car accident. The lady, right, that he hit, unfortunately, she wasn't wearing a seatbelt, so she immediately died. My dad broke his leg into 5 different pieces, and we were about to get deported, right? So my dad made the decision. He was like, dude, I'm gonna leave the country. I'm gonna flee before they can deport everyone. And I remember that time, bro, that caused a lot of trauma in my life, right? I became obsessed. I was like, Mom, I was afraid. I was terrified of getting in cars because my dad got in a car accident. But looking back on this moment, a lot of people like to blame their situation. Dude, if it wasn't for that moment, for all that suffering, all that trauma, I would not be who I am today, because that's really what made me and gave me more motivation to be like, okay, dude, now I got to be the man of the house, right? I got to step up. I got to take care of my mom. She was working 3 jobs at 2 restaurants, and then the other one was just basically like cleaning after old people, right? And I remember, dude, I was like, dude, there has to be something more to life. There has to be something more to life than having my mom work 3 jobs to get home, pass out, fall asleep. And that's really where I became, started to figure out how to make money online, how to do this, how to do that.
So what age was this when your father actually had to go back?
I believe this was like 13 or 14.
So you were already like in that you were aware what was going around the world. Okay. So you actually grew up like in the same era as me. Social media was coming up. Snapchat at 12 or 13, I started getting involved, right? What was the first thing that you saw that you knew you could make money online?
So the first person I saw, right, it was I remember this because it was actually my first mentor. It was the first ever job I ever got was Grant Cardone, right? So I saw Grant Cardone on YouTube flexing in front of a jet saying like, hey guys, I'm gonna show you guys how to make millions of dollars, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, how is that possible? Now, obviously I was very naive. So I was like, oh, it's a scam. Let me just look somewhere else. And then I saw Iman Ghazi.
Yep.
He was similar to age. I think he was like maybe 16 at the time. And
He's
I was
our
like
age, yep.
14 around there. And I was showing my mom, I was like, look, mom, he dropped out of high school, right? He was able to basically come from a horrible situation and make success from it. And obviously, Hispanic parents are like, oh, that's not real. That's a scam. Go to college, do this. And I used to tell my mom, like, no, mom, if he can do it, right? Even though let's assume that everything that he's showing is fake. It still costs a lot of money to rent the cars that he's doing. It's cost a lot of money to go on those vacations. So I knew internally, right? Even though like my environment was telling me, like everyone, my brother was making fun of me, like, oh, it's stupid, blah, blah. But I was like, dude, I know that cannot be fake. It's too much money for that to be fake. Right. And he was showing people how to do it too. And I remember I didn't have any money at the time. So I would go on websites, right, on Chinese websites and try to find his course.
Yep.
And then I started learning from there. And that I became obsessed with that, bro. I started learning, literally have videos back from 2016, 2017 of me getting obsessed learning Grant Cardone, sales, marketing, operations, the whole thing.
So when you were learning this and on YouTube, so I'm assuming that's how you were learning English, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because you were in ESL classes at that time.
I was in ESL classes. I was in intensive reading, dude. I never passed Algebra 1. I was in 12th grade. I was the last person taking my I think it's called EOC to graduate. Because if you don't pass Algebra 1 here in the state of Florida, you can't graduate. And I remember I was the last person there. The teacher felt bad for me. And she was like, oh, by the way, double check that one more time. Right? I put like B, and then she was like, oh, she grabbed an eraser. She just erased it for me, and she put D, right? That was the correct answer. By 1 point, I was able to graduate. If it wasn't for that lady helping me out, feeling sorry for me because I was the last person there, dude, I would have flunked high school.
How funny that you couldn't pass Algebra 1 of basic math, but right now you're taking in multiple digits, multiple numbers, dealing with numbers every single day. In fact, you could be an expert at this point, right? That's just a show to prove that maybe the system, there's something broken with it, right? That's just my opinion. Who knows? But that's actually fascinating. So when you were taking these courses, what did you sell first? Because you're self-teaching yourself.
Yeah, dude. So the first thing I had to understand was getting rid of that limiting belief, right? I grew up with like, dude, if the lights are on, turn it off. Don't take too long showers. Don't do this. Don't talk to strangers. And then when I met my mentor, Grant Cardone, he was like, dude, talk to strangers. Dude, leave the light on. Don't finish your plate of food, right? There's an abundance of money in planet Earth. And that was the biggest philosophy that changed for me, was because if I look at my family, if you meet my family, you would be like, dude, these people think completely different than you. As a matter of fact, my brother's a lawyer, right? He's 3 years older than I am. He is in like 10 grand of debt. And he's like, bro, dude, I'm in so much debt. I got to pay this off. And I'm like, dude, fuck, I'm like close to $1 million in debt, but I want more millions in debt, right? Because I'm a big believer, bro. If you want to play at a big level, you got to do what the big guys do. And all the big guys, Apple, Amazon, any company, they take on debt to scale. So
It's like I told Chris. It's like, it's not the grades you make, it's the hands you shake, right? Your brother went through the whole system. Respect for him. He finished it, right? Salute to him. But you actually shook your hands to the way to the top. You said something very important, debt. A lot of people are scared of that word. How do you use that to your advantage?
It's a great question. So what I do is Airbnb arbitrage, right? So the best way to get into, let's say, real estate, because I worked for a mentor, right? His name was Grant Cardone. He does multifamily. To get into multifamily deals, you need a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a little bit of a return, right? So and I was like, okay, let me figure out a new way of doing this. And I found Airbnb when I was very little, but I kind of dismissed it because I was like, oh, well, you need a lot of money for that. So let me just find something else. I tried wholesaling. I tried drop shipping. I tried every business that you can possibly imagine. None of them worked. And then eventually I saw an ad for Grant Cardone saying like, hey, if you want to change your life, come learn from me, come get mentored, come apply, work, right? So I applied for Grant Cardone, got rejected. I applied the second time, got rejected. The third time I applied, he said, why do you keep on applying if we just keep on telling you no? Like, what's gonna happen next? And I said, Grant, if you don't hire me, I'm gonna keep on coming back until you say yes. They laughed, they loved it, they gave me an opportunity. I was the youngest employee he ever hired at 17 years of age. And dude, I was making like $12 an hour. I moved down to Miami from my mom's house with $100 to my name because I was like, bro, even if I fail, right? Let's say I fail. I can always go back to my mom's house. I can always go back home, right? But if I don't take that chance, that leap of faith, then dude, I'm never gonna achieve what I want to achieve. You get me?
It's crazy because at 17, so you didn't finish high school, right?
I did finish high school, barely graduated, 2.0 GPA. And then as soon as I finished high school, I moved to Miami with $100 to my name.
What did Grant Cardone say when you told him that story? I'm assuming you told him that.
Yeah, I did tell him that. And he was like, hey, look, this is not going to be like college, right? I remember like one of my mentors, his name was Todd. He's the director of sales for Grant. He said, Tabari, you're like a good piece of clay, right? You're like a really good quality clay. You're very coachable, but you're just not built into anything, right? You give me 3 years and I'll build you to the person you want to become. That's all I needed to hear, because after that, I was like, okay, this guy makes the money I do. He wears the clothes I want to wear. At that time, he was wearing like $2,000, $3,000 Hugo Boss suits.
Okay.
And I was like, dude, I've never seen a suit for $2,000. I used to think suits were like $100, $200. So I started listening to that guy and being like, dude, tell me whatever. If you tell me the sky is yellow, dude, I'll believe the sky is yellow. I'm very coachable. Just tell me what to do. And because of that, dude, everything they told me in that organization, I immediately implemented. I basically grew from administrative assistant to operations, the director of operations, managing all the sales team operations when I was 18, 19 years old. Keep in mind, horrible at math. And I was dealing with all of the finances with the sales team and everything like that, right? Then from there, I worked my way up to a salesperson, and that's when I started breaking records, and I became one of the top producers there, closing many, many deals. And because of that, I proved to Grant, which was like, I kind of had like a shoulder, like a chip on my shoulder, that I was like, dude, Grant gave me a shot, but he took a risk, right? So let me prove to him that you should hire 18, 19-year-olds. Because at that time, there was only like 25. I think the youngest person there was 25 years old.
Right.
Besides that, no one else was there. And because they saw success, now they have a whole bunch of people that are 18, 19, which that makes me super happy, because it's like, you know, it's inspiring the youth. Now you can do it if you're 18 years old. You don't got to be the smartest. You just got to work the hardest.
You open the doors for the new generation, which is cool because you can actually say that. But I keep hearing closing deals, and I want to break it down for people to actually understand what that means, breaking deals or closing deals. What were you doing in that company for Grant Cardone and for Todd, you know?
Great question. So we basically sold info products on sales training, right? So a lot of people would come to us and they would be like, hey, I want to learn how to train my salespeople. And I would sell them sales training. I would sell them events, which, imagine, selling sales training itself is very, very hard, because the person you're selling it to is a salesperson or a business owner. And that's one of the dilemmas that I had. Was I was talking to business owners that were, you know, worth 10, 15, 20 million. And I was an 18-year-old kid that I've never had at that time more than $1,000 to my name in my pocket. So how am I going to go from being literally broke to now selling a $40,000 product to someone that is worth $10 million, right? That's a dilemma that a lot of people in sales especially have to overcome, because at the end of the day, if you think with your pockets, you're only going to get what your pockets have. So you have to think with how much money there is in the world. Like, money is, bro, there's so much money in the world. The only thing that's finite is time. And I think a lot of young people make the mistake of thinking, well, I can't do that, or I can't invest my money, or I can't do this because what if I lose it? Newsflash, you're gonna lose the money. Everything you build in this life, you eventually are gonna lose, right? You're gonna be literally buried in the ground with nothing.
It's crazy, but for sales tactic, you're like 18, 19, 20, man, in front of these people that have like millions of dollars. What's your sales pitch at that time?
Yeah, I mean, what I did is I looked at who was a top producer at that time, and anyone who wasn't a top producer, I would not listen to them. They would always come to me for advice, like, hey, let me show you how to close this deal. Let me show you how to negotiate. But I was like, dude, I want to learn from middle of the pack guys. I want to learn from the top producer. So I went to the top producer and I became obsessed, dude. Everything that he did, all of his calls, I would listen to them. I had no life. Most 18-year-old kids were playing Xbox, PlayStation. Dude, all I was doing in my free time, I was just learning sales from the top producer. Now, I would go as far, there's a formula I like to go ahead and do. It's called model, mimic, master, right? You model someone, then you copy them. You mimic everything they do, bro. If the guy said a joke in 3 minutes and 12 seconds of the presentation, I would say the exact same joke, right? I would literally be so obsessed with copying everything he does. And because of that, I was able to become a top producer myself, because, bro, success, you don't got to reinvent the wheel, bro. You got to find something that works and just go out there and just copy it.
It's recycled. Everything's recycled, like content, everything's recycled. So when you're already like 2021, raising up the ranks, there's obviously other people there that's been there for 10, 15 years. how did they feel that you were rising so much? Were they supportive, or were there just like a couple of like, this kid needs to be humbled?
That's a great question, because I remember I came from administrative assistant to operations and then to sales.
And from Peru.
Exactly, from Peru as well, right? What I remember when I joined the sales team and I was closing deals, my very first day I got 3 deals, right? I remember every salesperson in the team, oh, he knows where the good leads are because he was doing operations. He knows how to use the CRM. They were coming up with all these excuses, but in reality, it wasn't anything to do with me finding leads or me doing this. It was just, bro, I wanted it more than them, right? They've already made money. They're already chilling. They're comfortable. They've maybe put a little bit of money into investments. Bro, they're just like kind of like they're like their peak goes here and then they're kind of just closing off. Me, on the other hand, bro, I was like, dude, I want everything. Give me everyone. They're like, oh, I don't want to talk to broke people. Good. I want to talk to broke people. Give them on my calendar, right? And there's a saying that I love in sales that says, if you want someone to buy, treat them like a millionaire and they will act like a millionaire, right? Most salespeople, they find someone, maybe they're struggling, they don't have a lot of money, and they immediately dismiss them, or they make them feel little, or they're like, oh, well, you don't have the money? Okay, it's not a good fit, bye. I would never do that, because I remember I was in that shoes, right? I remember I was talking to so many salespeople, and they would dismiss me because of my age, because of my accent. I used to have a speech impediment, so I couldn't talk, right?
Yep.
And they would make fun of me, and I was like, bro, I would never want to make someone feel that way. So what I did in sales, and I think my secret, to go back to your question, was, dude, I would treat everyone the way I wanted to be treated, right? And I would treat them like millionaires. I would treat them like they have the money. And magically, at the end of the call, even the quote unquote brokest people, they always had the money.
So I kind of want to talk about a little bit more of the business side. So what were you taking home? Like, what was the commission taking? 1%, 2%?
We were getting 10%, right? If it's a split deal, if someone sets it and I close it, then it's 5-5, right? Now, my very first year in grants, I made a little bit of money because I wasn't in sales, right?
Yeah.
I was in a salary. I was making $12 an hour. Yeah, it was nothing. When I got into sales, bro, I literally broke so many records. I made 6 figures in my first 2 to 3 months in sales, in commissions, right? And I remember that was such a big record that literally my boss, my mentor, director of sales, Todd Straw, he would always speak about me on stage like, hey guys, this 18-year-old just making $100,000 and you guys are 29, 30 years old and you guys are complaining the leads are shit, this is bad. And he would use me as like a poster child, right? And because of that, dude, I was like, damn, that's cool and all, but now I gotta double it, triple it, quadruple it. And I made $500,000 in take-home income before I turned 21.
Dude, so before 21, right? And you're not even educated in the system, right? How was it when you made $500,000 but then got hit by Uncle Sam, IRS?
Yeah.
Break it down, because there's a lot of people making that money but spending it, and then they have to owe, so they're actually in debt.
Exactly. And I didn't know about that, right? I didn't know about taxes. Now, luckily, I was a W-2 employee, so all my taxes were getting taken out by the company. I never had to worry about that. I do know people that they make a lot of money and they don't pay their taxes, and because of that, they gotta watch their back. Like, oh shit, how long is this gonna last?
Yep.
Luckily, I was a W-2. I was very coachable. So whatever the accountant team told me to do, I would just do. So they told me, hey, Tabari, save 10% of your money, save 20% of your money. I would always do that. So that's another lesson that I think is very big. A lot of young people, if they make a little bit of money, let's say you make $500,000 and you're 21 years old, you would think, oh, dude, my shit don't stink. I'm big boss. I'm big G, right? I never had that attitude, bro. I learned this from Kanye West, right? He says, good people look in the mirror and they see greatness. Greatness looks in the mirror and they see nothing. Right. Whenever I looked in the mirror, bro, I was like, dude, I'm nowhere where I want to be. Like, I'm nothing. Right. I'm nothing. Yeah, I bought some nice watches. I had like 70 grand worth of watches at that time. And I was like, dude, yeah, this is cool and all. But what I realized, bro, once you buy everything you've ever wanted, you realize that, bro, that game of buying stuff is for the broke people. Right? That's how they sell you on like, hey, spend money. Once I bought everything I've ever wanted, bro, I could care less. Like, I just bought a Lamborghini Urus, right? Dude, this should be my dream car, right? Dude, I barely drive it. It's like it's not fulfilling for me no more, right? And I think that's the biggest lesson that a lot of young people should make is like, once you're making money, continue being coachable, but more importantly, like, find out what's the next play, what's the next level. Right, because once you get here, there's also here and here and here, and most people get stuck here, right? And then they don't realize it till they're 30, and they're like, "Damn, I wasted a lot of money. I wasted a lot of time. I got to go get a job now." Yep. Right, and that's what a lot of people get wrong.
So, was having all this money at such a young age, there comes a point, like you said, you woke up, you're like, "I'm spending this money, but it's not completing me," right? In a sense, it's an enhancement, not happiness. What was it like when you felt? I'm assuming you felt that loneliness at one point, where you're just like, I have all this, but why? Why isn't it not clicking? I'm 21. I'm making more than half the people my age. Why?
Yeah.
What's going on?
I remember I had a manager there, and this was back in September of 2022 when I quit that job, right? Because I always knew that I didn't want to be there 10 years, right? I was going to treat my job as like a university, as my college. I'm going to learn, I'm going to squeeze the juice, I'm going to learn everything I possibly can. I'm going to take that information and go start my own company. That's what I always wanted to do. And it wasn't until I realized, like, dude, I'm making all this money, but number one, I don't have, yes, technically I have financial freedom, but I don't have location freedom or time freedom. I can't go out and work from here. I can't go on a trip. Dude, I lived in Miami. I still live in Miami, but when I first moved to Miami, I thought, oh my God, it's going to be amazing. I'm going to go out. Dude, I never went out. Never. All I did was work. And then I realized, I was like, okay, I'm a top producer. My income is kind of capped. I was making 20 to 30 to 40 grand a month in take home income in commissions. But dude, I have to sacrifice myself for every single deal. So much so that my health was taking a toll. And that's when I met my now business partner, Jerry, who he was actually a lead inside of the CRM. And every time I would call him to try to close him, I would never see him working. I'm like, bro, what the hell do you do? Like, I always see you're playing golf, you're playing paddle, but I never see you actually working. And I kept on following up with him for a year and a half until he eventually told me, dude, I do Airbnb. So we sat down, went to dinner, showed me the business. I grabbed the business and he said, Tabari, you have amazing skills, but you're using it the wrong way. Right now, you're making someone else rich. It's time to make yourself rich. Here's the business. We laid out the business plan. He showed me everything. At the time, he had 60 or 70 properties. We partnered up. Fast forward 2 years later, we have 250.
So right now, so how you got really, really wealthy with more time is just getting properties and then...
I don't like to say getting properties. I like to say collaboration. I have 7 different companies. All of them have business partners in. My business partners know way more than I do, right? That's the lesson that a lot of young people get wrong is they want to be a big fish in a small pond. I want to be I want to be like a big fish, but in a big pond, right? I'd rather be a small fish in a big pond, right? Because at the end of the day, bro, it's either you are giving out your energy teaching someone or someone else is going to teach you. I like to learn from other people. So every single one of my companies, bro, I learn from people that are 10, 15, 20 years older than I am that have already been through the game. And guess what I do? I do the same thing I did when I was 17. I'm just coachable. Dude, tell me what to do. Without question, I'm going to do it. And that's been the biggest secret to success that most young people get wrong. Because I teach a lot of people. I have 500 students. The people that get results and the people that don't get results are the people that think, oh, well, I can do it by myself. Or, oh, no, what you're telling me about debt. Well, I don't want to get debt. I don't want to invest in a property because then what if I lose money? I'm like, yeah, dude, what if you get struck by lightning today? You know, like what if? You can talk about what ifs or you can talk about action. If you talk about action, then money will follow.
I like that because your mind's like a sponge, so you observe, you like doing that, and I like that. Have you worked with any billionaires you personally, or not yet?
Yeah, I mean, Grant Cardone was a billionaire, right?
But you like what I'm trying to say is like, have you actually closed a deal with a billionaire? Like, actually pitched them someone and actually got something?
I wouldn't say a billionaire, but I would say someone that's worth 200, 300, 400 million. But I've never had like privilege of doing business with a billionaire yet.
I asked that question because I want to see what's the difference. Like if you're making more than 400K, you're very wealthy. I'm going based off what Gary Vee says statistically, right? But 400 million is a lot of money, right? What's the difference between someone making 5 million to 400 million, personality-wise or character-wise?
I want to touch on something you said, right? Because Gary Vee does talk about that, right? I was in an environment where if you make 400K, bro, you're a fucking loser.
Wow.
Right? And that's what pushes you to make more money. Because a lot of people would say, oh, there's a big number, right? 10K a month. Once I make 10K a month, I'm going to be chilling. Dude, once you realize that 10K a month is nothing, you're like, dude, why did I have that goal? So I was blessed at a very young age to have the right people around me that when I was making, let's say I took home 40 grand, like my manager would come to me and say, okay, cool, bro. Can you retire your mom off 40 grand? And I'll be like, no. Okay, good. Keep working. Right? They always push you to the next level, bro. And I think that's what, to answer your question, that's what top producers do. They never settle. Normal people, what they do is they hit a target. Oh, I hit my target. Let's go to Punta Cana. Let's relax. Right? What I do is, bro, I hit a target. I'm like, fuck, dude. Let's 10x the target. Let's 5x. Let's 20x the target. And then once I get that target, I'm like, oh shit, I was thinking too small. Let's 10x that. And then it's a continuous game because I'm a big believer, bro. Life is like chess. And at the end of the game, bro, like the reason you want to play chess is to win, right? And I view life like game, right? It's all a game, bro. It's all about leveling up, right? You have health, wealth, love, happiness. If you get all of those 4 aspects all to a 10, you're going to be happy by default.
So when you're making all this money and have all this, I'm assuming you went back to Peru at one point, right?
I went back to Peru once I got my citizenship. Yeah, I went back to Peru. Dude, worst experience. It's the worst experience. I love my family members,
Right.
bro. But in Peru, dude, everyone's so thinking so small. They gossip. This is something I hate about my people, Hispanic people, bro. They love fucking gossiping all the time. I'm like, dude, let's think in abundance. Let's like every solution they find a problem, right? Where I'm the opposite. In every problem, I find a solution, right? I remember I was sitting with a bunch of family members and they were talking about the dumbest thing, and I'm like, dude, why? Like, why do you want more? And then I realized I was like, oh shoot. They don't have the same hunger and the same mentors that I had in my life. So it's not their fault. They just haven't been open to it. It's like the matrix, right? The blue pill, the red pill. A lot of people get stuck in the actual matrix. And once you realize, once you're out of the matrix, you're like, bro, 99% of the people are perfectly okay and happy and content being stuck in the matrix.
It's crazy because I come from a Mexican background, right? So there's this saying, it's like, your family members believe in brujeria instead of your own kid's dream, which is so crazy. But like, I said, what about Peru when you went back? Because like obviously there's people gonna be like, ya se cree este güey, you know, this guy's like thinks he's hot shit. You know what I mean? Like, what was that conversation like? Trying to talk to the normal people, normal friends that you once were, right?
Yeah. They loved giving advice. They love giving advice, right? If you're making more money than them, they still think, oh, because I'm older, I'm going to give you advice. What I do with their advice, I believe opinions are like assholes, right? Everyone has one, right? You just got to be, you got to be smart who you're going to listen to. When I went back home and I was making good money, they were always telling me like, well, invest, buy a home, right? Dude, I have 250 properties and I own 0 homes. I actually rent where I live, right? So it's completely the different philosophy that they have. But once you reach a certain level, you realize, bro, that they're looking out for you. Right? They really believe that that advice they're giving you is the best advice. But you got to be smart enough to realize, okay, whenever someone gives me advice, I look at their life and I look at, okay, would I be happy if I trade places with this person? If the answer is no, dude, I don't listen to them. I just say, hey, I love you, mom. I love you, dad. Hey, amazing. You guys are the best. And then I just, boom, immediately one ear, out the other.
What's one myth, I want to say, call it myth, in the Latino culture that they say that you just don't believe when you came here to America?
Oh, dude, there's so many. There's so many. One is like, oh, being rich is bad. Being rich, all rich people are greedy, right? Money doesn't buy happiness. Dude, money fucking buys happiness, bro. Like, I get happy when I give back to people, right? Just literally a couple days ago, I was eating at a Peruvian restaurant. I saw this lady who reminded me a lot of my mom because my mom used to work at a Peruvian restaurant. You can see someone, like the way they look, their eyes, when they're worried about money.
Yep.
Maybe because I've been around it, so I can see it. And she had the same look that my mom had when I was 10, 11 years old. So my meal came out to like 25, 30 bucks. I tipped her 100, right? And I said, hey, look, I don't know if you're religious. I am. But I said, look, I mean, God told me to give this to you. Do this, whatever you do. Bro, she started bawling. She started almost crying. She was like, oh my God, thank you so much. I needed this, blah, blah, blah. Dude, that gives me happiness. So by definition, money does buy happiness. Now, watches, Rolexes, freaking cars.
Materials.
Dude, that doesn't bring any happiness. But giving back to people, dude, that's what brings you real happiness.
That's crazy. I mean, like, obviously you've been here in Miami, so what keeps you apart from not being a part of like the night culture, like the nightlife, the degenerate side? You know what I mean?
I mean, everyone has to go through it, right? It's like when you know, like, how do you know not to touch the hot pan? You have to burn your hands, right? So everyone is going to have that itch, especially when they move to Miami, dude. Everyone wants to hit up 11, Tootsie's, freaking, what's that club? Live, right? Everyone wants to go, which I tell people, dude, go, get it out of your system. Because once they go and they realize, like, bro, this is fucking nothing, then they realize, okay, let's go back to being on a mission, right? I like to say this all the time. If you're young, the number one thing you should do is find a target and be obsessed with that target, like a missile. Right, like a missile, when it locks in a target, dude, the missile's gonna keep on freaking going after that target. Most people, what they do is they find a target and they justify it like, oh, well, I don't really need to reach that target. It's the stupidest thing. And it comes from Hispanic people, right? All Hispanic people that I've met, a lot of them always say, well, I wanted to be rich, but I would rather spend more time with my family. I would rather, take the weekends off. And I'm like, dude, what are you, what you're saying doesn't make sense, right? It's like, there's a saying I love. It's everyone wants to go to heaven, but no one's willing to die.
It's true, because people live for the weekend, especially people from our generation. And I went through that too with my friends, which is why I came over here and kind of distanced myself a little bit, respectfully, of course. But since we are here in Miami and you've been making business with all these people around the States, how do you know who to trust to be a partner with? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's intuition, bro. It's like, how do you know if you're gonna find the right partner, right? Divorce rates are very high. It's literally intuition and knowing that if there's a problem, you can solve it, right? Now, if there's someone that fucks you over or something like that, dude, most people, what they do is like, oh, they fucked me over. Oh, this is so bad. Oh, what am I gonna do? Bro, if someone fucks me over, it's all right. Right, I don't care because it's a learning lesson, right? It's like, dude, thank you, God, for having them fuck me over so I can eliminate them from my life.
How did that look like when you were actually fucked over? Like, what's an experience like you can tell right now that you won't bring a lawsuit, but that you can tell to actually educate other people?
Yeah, dude, I think lawsuits are amazing. I think lawsuits are good. I got 4 lawsuits this year alone.
Wow.
Right, if you don't have lawsuits, bro, you're not doing it well enough, right? Like the president of the United States, I think I looked it up. He's got 4,800 lawsuits. I think lawsuits are great. Like most people, especially Spanish people, are scared of lawsuits.
Wow.
Dude, I welcome lawsuits. I am the one that starts the lawsuits, right? Because that's the best way. That's how you know that you're doing things correctly. Just like hate, right? This podcast, dude, once you become the #1 podcast in the world, you're gonna get hate on. You're gonna get shit on. Oh, he can't do it. Oh, he thinks he's big shit. Oh, the guests that he's bringing are ass. They're gonna hate on you, right? And hate is an indication of you're doing something right. So what was your question again? Sorry.
I said pretty much like, how do you really do like the trustworthy stuff? Like, that's what I want to get back. When you're making business deals and all this, there's $1 million on the line, right? You can't just throw it out the window and be like, it's just $5 million. No. Like, you're putting your trust in this and making this partner, making this deal.
Yeah.
How do you actually go pursue that, you
Dude,
know?
2 months ago, I lost $70,000.
Wow.
Right. I take that as a learning lesson. It's like, I invested in a deal, didn't work out. Cool. Go on the next one. Most people get stuck on their losses. I don't focus on losses. I focus on wins. Because I know life is like this, bro. If life was just like this, like, it wouldn't be life. Like, think about Superman, right?
Yeah.
Superman's planet had to get destroyed for him to become Superman. Batman's parents had to get shot and killed for him to be Batman. The Flash had to get struck by lightning. Like, all of these superheroes that we all look up to as kids, they had to go through tough times. But the key indicator is what most people don't do is they go through a tough time and they give up. They settle. They go back to being average. Even when I was a little kid, dude, I was like, I do not want to be mediocre. I'll rather be dead than be mediocre. So to answer your question, when it comes to about finding like when's the last time I've been fucked over or something, I don't consider it fucked over, bro. I consider it a learning lesson. I've probably been fucked over like today, but I don't consider it that. All right, I just consider it, dude, that's life.
So at 24, do you have your own company or are you still working under Grant Cardone?
No, I quit Grant Cardone's 4 or 5 years ago.
Wow, so it's been a while now.
Yeah.
So what are your main focus besides the Airbnb right now?
Yeah,
Like,
so the main focus is Airbnb, right? We have
Okay.
250 properties. We're trying to scale that to about 1,000. We have a software company, which that's the big play. It's a SaaS company. We get a recurring subscription from that. We have an education company where we teach people how to do the entire business. The thing that separates us from other Airbnb coaches is number one, we're legit, right? We show our numbers. We show how much we're making. We're one of the biggest hosts in all of Miami. So when the students come down to Miami, we show them our properties. We show them everything, how the business runs. On top of that, bro, the big play that I'm getting into now is I'm trying to raise $30 million for a fund, right? I'm trying to get into fund because I'm a big believer, dude. If you just keep on playing small, like you got to get to the next level. Like we started with checkers and then we have to go to chess. And then after we get chess, maybe we go into Monopoly. After Monopoly, we just go up and up, and different levels, right, require different difficulties.
Yep.
Right. So I'm a big believer, dude. If I'm comfortable and if I'm making good money, shit, it's the next time to go to the next level.
So doing all this in marketing, what's a good marketing approach that you're doing right now for this business?
Yeah.
Ads, what is it? Word to mouth?
Yeah, I mean, this right here, dude, I was super busy today. I was like, shit, man, I might have to cancel on Pedro, but I was like, nah, I gave my word, right? So I'm not going to cancel, right? I think giving your word is more important than anything else, right? So at the end of the day, bro, you're going to be busy, right? And I don't believe in the quote unquote busy. I learned this from my mentor. He says, dude, being busy is an achiever's way of saying he doesn't have things in control. Right. So I was like, I mean, dude, yeah, everyone's busy, but dude, I'll rather, like, for me, what's like death is just going to the beach and relaxing. That to me is death. I know most people love that. They enjoy that. For me, dude, that's death. If I'm not growing, I'm dying. Right. So I'm a big believer, dude, that you got to keep yourself busy. You got to keep on grinding and you got to elevate to the next level. Right. If you're surrounded by friends and your conversations are about like, oh, what's the football game like? What's the soccer game like? Dude, you got to talk about M's. You got to talk about billions. You got to, like me and my business partner, we always like, dude, how can we become billionaires? How can we become billionaires? What's the next play? Right. So that's the biggest thing.
So at 24, what do you think is the market? What do you think is the right city and state to be in to actually start investing in to grow, in your opinion?
I mean, you can grow in any state, right? United States is a beautiful, right? People come here, land of the free. You go ahead and have the American dream. I chose Miami, dude, because that's where my mentor was. So I think Miami is a freaking gold mine because you can collaborate. There's a lot of people here that are just all talk though, so you got to be careful who you listen to. But dude, Miami forces you to level up, right? Miami, New York, Dubai, all these places, bro, force you to level up because you're basically put in an environment where you have to either die or you're gonna grow, right? I've seen people move down to Miami, very close friends of mine, that they last here 2 to 3, 4 years, and then Miami spits them back out. Because Miami, dude, it's very competitive, bro. It's like a machine. Dude, you come in, they'll spit you back out. So I think, dude, I moved to Miami, what, 2018, 2019? Right, so I've been here for a long time, and I think that's the biggest blessing, dude, is being around people that force you to level up, get to the next level.
I like that. And I know that you touched this earlier in the conversation where it's just like you focus on your health, right? Health is wealth. Without it, you won't be right here talking to me all energetic, right?
Yeah.
What's the main focus on it when you started saying, what did you start seeing you physically that you started investing in your health?
It's a great question. So when I was in sales, dude, my income was at the most, right, as a sales guy. But my health took a toll. I was losing hair, face full of acne. Dude, I was having like freaking, my body was just breaking down. And that's when I realized too, to make that jump to start my own companies. Cause I was like, bro, I mean, yeah, I'm making great money, dude. Any 21-year-old would want to make $500,000 a year. But dude, once you get to that point, you're like, okay, dude, there's something more to life, right? There's no point of making all this money if you're going to die young. Right. And that's why I was like, okay, let me use these skills. Let me build a real company. Let me expand it. Because, dude, the real thing about being a business owner is, yes, you technically work 24/7. I work more than my entire team. But at the end of the day, bro, I'm not tied down to an office. I can go whenever I want. We just went to Colombia. Like, we went to like 4 or 5 trips this year alone.
That's sick.
You know, and it allows you to do whatever you want, you know?
That's so sick, though, because now you have the time to have some free, but you're only 24, man. So what do you think about 30? I know you think of the now and also in the future when you need to. But like, dude, you still got another 6 years to your 30. And I always like to say, your life as a man doesn't begin till you're 30. So you have all this going on. So I'm assuming the next goal is to be a billionaire?
Yeah. I mean, dude, I don't really have the big like billionaire, right? That would be great and all. But dude, what I really want to do is I want to grow who I am, right? So every single year I've grown like over 200x because I've been blessed to be in a great spot to learn from mentors. I'm very coachable, right? So my big play, dude, is I want to get to a point, I want to retire by the age I'm 30, right? So I'm trying to go for 100 million by 30, right? And the only way to do that is by doing big plays, right? You can't really do that having an Airbnb arbitrage business. You can't get to 100 million unless you sell it, right? Which that is the plan in the next 3 to 5 years. The only way to do that is through a hedge fund, right? To a fund or through IPO, right? Initial public offering. So that's my big play, dude. That's what I'm really doing it. Why? Because I care more about legacy than money, right? I want my kids to be able to get pulled over right here, right? In Biscayne. And they're like, oh shit, you're Tabaris Sotomayor's kid? Oh shit, go ahead. Why? Because, dude, I always see it in the movies where like Gatsby, right? Yep. They pull up Gatsby, he shows he's Gatsby, and then, oh, go ahead, sir. They apologize. That's what I'm chasing for. I'm chasing for generation. I'm not chasing for myself, dude. I can die, like, literally, I can get in my car, speed, boom, die today, right? So I don't care about, like, 24, 25, dude. I care about 30. I care about 40 when I'm building real generational wealth. Making a couple million is cool. That's great. But making a couple 100 million is even cooler.
That's so sick. With making all this money and meeting all these people, what's something you learn about yourself? That kid, that 10-year-old Peruvian kid, now at 24, having all this, succeeded all this. What's something you learn about you?
Dude, so that's funny. A lot of people think, dude, your companies are doing 400 grand a year. Like, I'm sorry, 400 grand a month. Like, you must be like, you know, traveling. You must be doing this. Dude, I don't feel like I've done anything. Like, I feel like I've done zero. I feel like I'm behind. Like, Alexander the Great was 16 years old when he took over half the world, right? So I'm like, dude, I'm fucking behind. Like, I'm like, the clock's always ticking, right? And I tell this to all my students. I'm like, dude, the moment that you start realizing, right, that life is finite, there's a saying that says, every man has 2 lives. The second one begins when he realizes he only has one. That's what a lot of people got to realize. I was blessed to realize that at 17 years of age. Most people, bro, don't realize that till they're like 28. They have a wife, they have kids, and like, oh shit, what did I do? Dude, I was playing Madden, fantasy football. Oh my God, what am I gonna do? Which at that point, bro, I'm a big believer it's never too late to start, but obviously the odds are in your favor if you start younger.
I like that. So what happened to your father at the end, though? Is he here or is he back in Peru or?
Yeah, it was a funny story. So he fled, right, to go ahead and obviously give us a better opportunity. And also he wanted to go ahead and get medical treatment because we couldn't afford medical treatment here in the States. My dad was free for 2-3 years. Then he got a little fender bender, right? So he
Wow.
went to basically think of it like the DMV of like Peru to
Yeah.
report the accident. And once he reported the accident, oh, it came up, you're wanted. Boom, he got arrested, faced 2 years in Peru, got extradited back to the United States, faced another 2 years here in a prison in Pennsylvania. And then a couple years ago, this was all like way back then, right?
Right.
But now he's free. We have a great relationship. And yeah, I have a great relationship with my dad.
What was the conversation like when you're just like, hey, dad, all this was worth it? Your decision from you and mom coming over here, look what, you got a lawyer as a son, and you have a self-made multimillionaire son too. You won the lottery as a parent.
Yeah, dude, I've never had that conversation with my dad, right?
Yet.
Yeah, I haven't had that conversation because, dude, once you get to a certain point, like, yes, when you make a little bit of money, you're gonna want to tell people, you want to tell everyone, like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But once you're making enough money, dude, like, I don't care what people think. Like, if people are proud, that's amazing. If people are disappointed, that's amazing. If people are envious, that's great. I don't care what people think. All I care about is, like I said, right, a missile, right? You have a target and you go towards that target and you just keep on following it until you hit it. Then once you hit it, you get another missile. Because my dad obviously is very proud. My mom is very proud. But what I'm most proud of is that I opened their thinking, right? I have a little brother. His name is Sebastian. My mom doesn't force down college like she used to force down to go to college to me because they've seen what I've been able to do.
Yep.
So now my little brother's trying to do like a YouTube channel. He's trying to do this, which I think is fucking amazing, bro. That to me is better than any type of money, any type of like, I'm proud of you, is just, okay, don't tell me you're proud of me. I just want your thinking to expand. Because that's the thing that's been able to like change my life is expanding my thinking and realizing that, bro, there's so much money. There's so many people to help. If you just keep on pushing and you realize, bro, that as long as you are lined up with your target, you will get there, right? Like if, dude, you want to be the #1 podcast, as long as you keep on going, bro, I'm no doubt that you're going to get there, right? The only way you wouldn't get there is if you stop, which I know you won't, by the way, because you got fucking phenomenal energy, you got good work ethic.
Thank you, brother.
But that's what most people get wrong, dude, is most people, I see so many people, bro, friends of mine that have dreams. Like for example, the company that I came from, right? Grant Cardone's company.
For sure.
Dude, I can only name a handful of people that got out of that company that was able to start their own company and be successful in it. Why? Because, bro, most people still stay stuck with like, what if? Dude, if you can replace that fear and just go after your goals and dreams, bro, newsflash, we're all gonna die, right? If you file bankruptcy, dude, you can make it all back.
Yep.
Right, so just keep pushing, bro. Just keep pushing until you get there and just enjoy the journey, right? For me, enjoying the journey is meeting people like you, right? Talking to people, leveling up, and going to the next level.
Something interesting for me that I learned about people, like actually interviewing and just like socializing, is that it's all an exchange game at a point. Like it's all psychological because you're selling them, right? Because you're trying to get their money into your pockets, but also build a relationship. So for me, I like to think everything's psychological, right? What did you learn about people too? Like what's something weird that you were like, we're really like this as human people?
Yeah, that's a great question, dude. That's a great question. I like to say that the business that I do now, which is Airbnb arbitrage, is very similar to sales, right? Why? Because you have to negotiate with landlords and get them to like basically convince them on giving you their prized possession, right? What do most people value most? Their kids and their homes. Right? So how can you convince a landlord to give you their property for you to put on Airbnb? That is a sale for itself, right? So 60%, I tell this to all my students, 60% of Airbnb is your ability to find and close a deal, right? So to answer your question, dude, there's so many negotiation tactics, so much things that I've learned about people. The biggest thing, dude, is you got to help people. If you come from a place of like, dude, fuck you, I want to take your money, I want to close the fucking deal, you'll never make money. I've met salespeople that have something called commissions breath. When they're closing a deal, you can tell they don't give a frick about the client. They just want to get the money. Me, I was always like, dude, how can I help the client? Because in sales and in life and in business, you have to be sold on 3 things, right? Number 1, yourself. You got to be sold that you're the right guy that's going to help that person. Number 2, you got to be sold on the company. If you work for a company, you got to be so sold on the company that, dude, this company will do a great job if I close this person. And number 3, you got to be sold on the product, right? Whatever it is you're selling. If you're sold on those three things that I like to call 3 10s, dude, your ability to close a deal is going to be fucking through the roof, right? That's my biggest secret, dude, is I'm just so sold that the clients feel that, and I actually care about the clients.
Very interesting, but also too, like you said, you have this team of clippers coming on, right? How do you know that you're gonna get that like one viral clip? Like, is it the energy? Is it the edits? Is it the person behind it? Like, what makes that person invest in you when you're making these clips, you know?
Yeah, so the organic side, that's something that I'm just now implementing, right? My business relies heavily on paid. So we spend a lot of money every single month on ads. I'll probably spend $500,000 just on paid ads.
Yep.
Right. So when it comes to the organic, dude, that's still something I've spent a lot of time. Someone maybe, Vincent Fisher, very good at online marketing, right? He's giving me a lot of tips that I've implemented. And dude, I've seen the income go in that specific company, in the info product company that relies heavily on marketing to go bam, like this. Like, as a matter of fact, dude, the reason I have this Lambo, this Lambo's $7,000 a month. I don't care about cars. If you told me, dude, what type of engine do you have? I can't even fucking answer you, bro. I don't know anything about cars. But he was like, dude, get this car because it's going to help you make more revenue, right? And I was like, that's a smart play. Because I came from a mentality of like, dude, Grant says, don't invest in cars, buy properties, get into real estate, do this, which is great. But bro, you got to understand where they're at and where they're giving you that advice. Grant gives you that advice because he wants you to invest with him. Right now, Vincent, he's a friend of mine, so he was actually trying to give me real advice. And bro, most people would be like, "Oh, Vincent, I don't want to get a Lambo. That's $250,000. Why would I do that?" But then I was like, "Okay, this guy's great at marketing. Let me just do what he does, and let me just implement it."
It's so interesting because I've also seen clips of Grant Cardone saying, "Rent, rent." And there's this controversy side that they're like, "Well, yeah, no shit, you're telling him to rent because you're gonna buy, right? That's what Grant Cardone's about." What do you think about that? Like, from people from 20 to 35, is it at what range should you start buying? Like, what income should be pulling in to buy? And what's a safe thing to actually just rent? It's a smarter choice to rent.
If you are someone like my brother, who's very risk averse, he does not like risk, he does not like debt, I would say buy a home. Sure, by all means. That's like the traditional, quote unquote, normal thing that most people do. Me, I won't buy a home until I'm probably like 45. Right? Okay. Why? Because I'd rather invest in properties that generate me cash flow and then generate cash flow. I grab that cash flow, invest it more into other companies. And I'm very big, dude, on just growing the businesses. I think a lot of Spanish people get that wrong because I don't know if you know this, but the reason that the whole like marketing side of like buying a home came around was because banks loan money for people to buy homes. Now, how can you convince the audience to buy a home and actually go ahead and, get a loan to buy that home? By selling them the dream. Yep. Move to America, buy a home, own where you are. Bro, buying a home is a piece of paper, right? Dude, that piece of paper could be taken away from you literally like this, right? Just as fast as they can give it to you, they can take it away. A lot of people get this wrong and like, oh, I own. Bro, I don't own anything, right? I just own myself and my thoughts. Right? Everything that I have that's materialistic, bro, I don't consider that technically that I own because everything could be taken away at any moment. A lot of people that get stuck in the mediocre thinking, they're like, oh, dude, I want to own this. I want to own that. In reality, bro, you won't own shit. Not even the clothes that we're wearing, bro. We don't own this clothes. Yep. It's someone else's clothes.
I like that. I like that answer only because I asked you the question in the beginning where it's just like, when you were 10, what was the American dream like to you? And then, you know what I mean? Like at 24, you're kind of answering that. So I kind of want to wind it down with these questions now. Well, one, do you see yourself being a partner with Grant Cardone in the future? Or would you want to be a partner with him?
I would love to, but the way that organization is set up, that once you leave that company, they kind of blacklist you. So that you can never talk to them, you can never do anything. That's just how life is. I mean, I get it from that perspective. I'm not gonna be like, oh, bitching and whining, like, oh my God, I made you like $11 million. Why would you block me? Dude, that's part of game. That's part of the game. That's part of life. Like most people get stuck on that. Oh, my mentor that taught me everything I know he blocked me on Instagram. Well, he didn't block me, but it was someone in the team. Oh, they blocked me. Oh, I'm so butthurt. Dude, I was like, that's life. Let's move on. Next, right? So to answer your question, I would love to, but that'll never happen. Maybe we'll work some deals in the future. Who knows? But as of now, the door's kind of closed.
Who would you want to work with in Miami?
Dude, who would I want to work with in Miami? That is a great question. There's a lot of people that I like to study, right, and look from afar. Like
one entrepreneur and then one influencer or / content creator.
Dude, so I think they're all, I don't consider one influencer, one content creator, one entrepreneur. I just consider them all a person, right? Because, dude, to be an entrepreneur, you got to be a content creator. You got to be an influencer. Yeah, like, it all works hand in hand. And to be an influencer, you got to be an entrepreneur or else you're going to be a broke influencer and then you have no one's influence, right? So I like to put them all at once. Two people that I want to hang out with, dude, Jeremy Haynes, great guy. He actually did a video here. He always comes here to shoot podcasts.
Sweet.
Dude, let's see. Who's someone else that I like to study? Let me see. Let me think about this. I want to give you a good answer. Dude, in terms of like entrepreneurship, I don't really have someone, but I like to study BlackRock. I like to study like the Rockefellers, right? I like to study the president. I like to study people that are not in a level that's like a little bit higher than I am, right? But in a level that's like fucking boom right here. Right, because dude, I know everyone that I think that like I see on Instagram, dude. It's like we're right there, right? So it's like, dude, I can probably go to Pura Vida and I'll see them sitting down. It's very attainable, right? Versus someone like the Rockefellers, right? Someone like Carnegie, like all these people, dude. Those are the right people to study.
For some reason, I thought you were gonna say Kyra Forgar, your neighbor upstairs that you
Yeah.
said you mentioned, just because he built an empire where he started off doing pranks, but he's a genius. You know what I mean? But it is true though that you can't put these people in categories, because if you have a business, you're an influencer or a content creator, you're still an entrepreneur. You're
Yeah.
growing your business, you're growing your content.
Right, because dude, I've met so many people. I used to be a magician, so I used to do magic for like a lot of famous YouTubers, right? When
Oh,
I was
wow.
like 15, 16 years, I got flown out to Las Vegas to do concerts, and not concerts, but like events to do magic and all this sort of
Right.
stuff. It's all over YouTube. And there's some YouTubers that, dude, I met. Like there's a guy called Daniel Fernandez. He does
Right.
magic.
Yo.
Great fucking guy, dude. Great guy. He was with me, was present. And there's other people that I'm not gonna name that I meet them and they act like their shit don't stink. And I'm like, dude, that's not what you portray online.
It's crazy though, because you were a magician then, so you, dang, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It's cool though, because they taught you how to put yourself in situations where you have to talk to people and actually, you know what I mean? But that's cool. Where do you see yourself in putting yourself in, I wouldn't say elevating the Latino community, right? Because at the end of the day, we're Latinos, bro, and there's a bunch of them here in Miami. How do you want to put on for them?
It's funny enough, bro, because I did an event. I spoke in front of 500 entrepreneurs at a conference called Shock Conference in Argentina. And I remember, dude, I went there and I was shocked by how many people were like, oh, Tabari, what advice do you have? Dude, you're so inspirational. Because, dude, when I look in the mirror, I'm like, dude, I haven't done shit. I still got so much more to go. So when all these people, I remember I was literally taking a piss and this guy came up to me in the bathroom and I was like, yo, Tabari, I have a question about my marriage and this and business. And I was like, yo, what's up? I was like, I was helping him, but I was taking a piss, right? And then I remember, dude, that it's like these people think that I'm like up here, but in reality, they don't know that I was worse than they've ever been. I was depressed, dude. When I was a kid, dude, sometimes I was suicidal. I would never go through with it because I didn't have that level of commitment back then. But dude, there's some days that I used to cry in my room, right? And I think of that because I'm like, dude, so many Spanish people are so talented, but the thing that kind of keeps them stuck is their own limiting beliefs. So what I do when I'm over there, bro, is I tell them, dude, anything is possible. And I tell them that when I used to grow up, I used to think, oh, well, being rich is only for like white old men, right? And they kind of relate to that because a lot of them think that way too. And I'm like, guys, it's not that fucking hard to get rich. Just follow someone that has what you want and just listen to them blindly, right? Do everything they say and you'll get the same level of success.
Dude, all this conversation, it's very, like, I'm telling you, it's very hydrating. I can't even find the word because it's actually, I like this. I like the conversation, but I kind of want to wind it down just for the sake of time right now. I know I put you in the hot seat, like I always do this at the end of my podcast. Now, since I've asked you all the questions, maybe the last 2 minutes, is there anything you want to ask me? And then is there someone that you would want to see on the podcast too as well?
Dude, that's a great question. I think you should interview a lot of people in info. Right. Why? Because info and influencers are very similar. The only difference is that info actually changes people's lives. Like I have a lot of students, dude, that I know, like once they have a kid, they might name their kid after me, right? Because of that, how much I change their lives, right? So a lot of people go wrong with just trying to find like influencers that get a big attention, which that's great. But I think if you focus on the info guys, because those are the people that are making a real impact. I know info gets a lot of hate, like, oh, course seller, this, blah, blah, blah. Dude, I would not be where I am if it wasn't for info. If it wasn't for the information that other people were putting out there, I wouldn't have even opened my brain to see like, oh man, that's even possible. If it wasn't for Iman Ghazi flexing that he made $100,000 in a year, which at that point I thought, oh my God, he's freaking rich, right? I would not be where I am. I wouldn't think it was possible. So I think the people you should interview, bro, especially now that you're in Miami, dude, just interview the info guys.
Thank you, man. I'm going to take that for consideration too as well. But brother, just for the sake of time, man, I thank you. I appreciate you for actually putting time aside and hopping on the podcast. So guys, you're going to have to watch this one because this one's going to be exclusive. All right. But thank you, bro.
Hell yeah, guys. Let's rock and roll. Guys, this guy's a savage. He's going to be the #1 podcaster. I fucking believe it. Energy is freaking amazing. So guys, how should they find like the podcast?
So in your 20s, man, besides OnlyFans and like Feet Finder or whatever, but you can look it up on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, TikTok, Snapchat, In Your 20s Official, In Your 20s Show, and Instagram, In Your 20s Officials, and vote for Pedro Personal One. Go for
Let's
Pedro.
go. Let's go, dude. I freaking love it. Guys, the best way to find me is Tabaris Sotomayor. You can just Google me, Tabaris Sotomayor. DM me. I'll always be there. I always respond to all my DMs, right? I'm very big on helping people. Like, if you have a question, dude, if you looking for like that guidance, if you're like, dude, I'm lost, I don't know what to do, my parents don't believe in me, the biggest thing I love doing is helping guys that were just like in my shoes, like 16, 17 years old, that I can at least give you some advice so you can actually go out there and actually believe that, dude, this is attainable, right? Having, millions of dollars, living the life of your dreams, dude. I have the girlfriend of my dreams. I have the life of my dreams. I have everything that I've ever wanted, and all because I found someone online and I took the leap of faith and I was like, let me reach out to them. Let me see what they got to offer.
I like that, man. Well, you heard it there, boys.
Hell yeah, guys. Let's roll. Boom.